video for 2020. I just want to take the moment and say to all my viewers, subscribers, people who've liked my videos, happy 2020. May this be a great year. May this be a year where a lot is achieved, and may this be a year where we as farmers get to see a lot of rain falling in this country, that the country goes from being brown to being green, and much more green and more green. But what I'm going to touch on today is an article that I read in the Namibian that said about only 2% of the African students specialize in the field of agriculture, and agriculture does contribute a percentage to the GDP of a country, and yet not a lot of young people are getting involved in it, or not a lot of young people are taking this field seriously. So I will speak on the both disadvantages and advantages as to why young people don't want to get involved in agriculture. The first thing is this: you go back to the schools. Let's talk about the varsities here, the colleges, the universities. People study agriculture there, not as a means for them to want to pursue it, to get a degree. Some don't. Some get into agriculture, into the field of agriculture, as a method to only get into another field of study that he wanted to do. Maybe this individual wanted to do law, but he didn't get the required 35 points. So now he doesn't want to take a year just sitting and doing nothing. He does a bridging course. He does his agricultural course, or at least he's upgrading his marks to get that 35 so he can go study the law he wants to do, and which happens on the end of the day, agriculture loses a student and loses an able-bodied prospect future agriculturalist. And then you also look at things like job opportunities in the sector itself. They're very limited. You know, out of 100 students that might study agriculture, and then they might obtain degrees, PhDs and masters and diplomas in the field, out of that 100, maybe only, let me say, 30% of them would actually get employment in maybe the government, or get employed by an agricultural retailer or an agricultural manufacturing business. So the prospects of jobs are also very limited. And then you would say, well, you study agriculture not to work for someone. You study agriculture to become your own boss. Why don't you just go into farming, and whichever, whether it's cattle, whether it's livestock or plants, or horticulture. Or horticulture. Why don't you just go into that? And then the problem is with that now is, number one, you say, okay, let me go into this farming business. I studied it. Let me put it to practice. Then you struggle with a few of the basic things, such as, number one, land. You struggle to get, because you're maybe in a communal area which is shared by you and your family and other people, and you say that I can't farm in this area, I'm going to struggle. I need to be able to get my own commercial farm. So the first thing you do is you go to your land bank, you approach them, and you talk to them and say, look, I want to go into farming, I'm very passionate, I want to buy a farm, can you guys assist me? And then they slap you with something that is known as collateral and fixed assets, for them to issue out a loan for you, because on the end of the day, the bank needs to make back its money that it's giving to you. Remember, loans are given back and need to be paid back. So they need that, which you might not have. Then you go to the Ministry of Lands, you apply for a resettlement farm. That process of applying for a resettlement farm has been a process that has been under heavy scrutiny for the past years or so, because a lot of people have come out and say it's corrupt. A lot of people have come out and say some people call you and want you have to bribe them for a resettlement farm. You hear stories of people that have been applying since 1994 and who have not received the farm till date. So some of those things that actually disappoint you. I mean, they disappoint you because you're applying, you're not getting any reply. You are meeting the criteria. You're young. You've studied the field. You've got experience in the field, but yet you're not getting this farm. That's another thing that makes you go like, okay, fine, I can't get a farm, I can't get a job. Maybe let me go ahead and go do something else rather than agriculture. I have a paper in agriculture, but if I get a job at the Ministry of Fisheries, I'll take it. You see? So those are some of the reasons. As I said, lack of opportunities in the field, obtaining of land, getting land is a problem. Now it's another issue again, going through whether you're going to try and buy a farm, or whether you're going to try and get a resettlement piece of land. And then also for young people that want to study agriculture, such as myself, who actually was a victim of this, the opportunities are very limited. You have your big universities. In Namibia, it's the University of Science and Technology, which is NUST. And then we have the University of Namibia, which is UNAM, with its New Dam campus. Those are the only two that offer agriculture as a field of as a course of study. Other colleges here in the country don't really offer agriculture. Our vocational training center, our VTCs, didn't offer agriculture as a field of study. I think only recently there have been talks about they want to add agriculture as a curriculum of study, but it hasn't yet been implemented. So again, the lack of opportunities to study it in the country, if you do not make maybe the required marks to go to NAST, to go to UNAM, there are no other places that you can turn to. An example such as South Africa. South Africa has a lot of agricultural colleges. There's one agricultural college of Grootfontein. There's so many in South Africa, in Bloemfontein too, and in various parts of South Africa, because under the apartheid government of yesteryears, they understood that agricultural production is very important and food security is an important thing. That is still something that we here in Namibia talk about, but are yet to implement and see how we can go about really making sure that we are food secure. That when we are hit by a devastating drought and we are unable to plant maize and crops, that there is still enough food to go around. It's because we're still talking of revisiting, reintroducing our bona fide agricultural colleges, which there are a couple that stand here in Namibia, but I think they are not anymore operational, or some of them operate but are no more accredited by the accrediting body in the country. So these are the problems. Now, and also you look at another biggest factor, and this is one of the biggest factors most people don't take into consideration when they talk about farming, is that your biggest business partner in agriculture is Mother Nature. And the one thing of Mother Nature is that she's very unpredictable. It could be that for that year they're predicting very good rains in the country, very good rains, very good rains, and it will be all green all over the country. And you as a crop farmer decide to prepare your tractors, get your hose ready, and you start plowing the fields because the weather station gave a prediction of good rain, and then that good rain doesn't come along. These are some of the things that do happen in this field of agriculture. Sometimes the good rain does not come along. It doesn't come along. You have already spent 100,000, not 100,000. Let's say maybe you've spent about 3 or 4,000 in plowing a field, buying maize, buying diesel, buying the tools and so forth, and plowing, expecting it to come and rain, expecting it to come and rain, very heavily, but then that doesn't happen. The rain doesn't fall, unfortunately. It doesn't fall heavily as expected. So then what happens is now you've made a loss. Your biggest partner being Mother Nature, and the thing of Mother Nature, she is unpredictable, particularly with this global warming climate they speak of nowadays. So a lot of young people wouldn't want to get involved because the job security, the safety net of saying that, okay, this month or this year I'm going to make a X amount profit from my cattle or from my crops, and then you have something like a drought happen and you lose half of your herd, half of your cattle completely collapse in the field and die. So that's the unpredictability that I think also scares a lot of young people from getting involved. Other one is just some of them develop a negative mindset. You should remember that most of the kids and most of the kids born in an African country, most of them come from rural areas, and from those rural areas they were exposed to farms and hard labor and hard workmanship and so forth, being woken up at 5 o'clock having to go to the field. And now that he is studied and he has gotten his PhD or his master's, he gets a comfortable job in the office, gets coffee delivered to him with an aircon, and he should give that up to go back to a farm. Most of them are really not interested in doing that. But let's look at how we can get young people involved in the field of agriculture. It's first really hammer it home that agriculture is not a field just for the retirees or for the old, because a lot of people still look at it that way. You talk to a lot of young people and they ask you, what are you interested in? You tell them, well, on a weekend I love to go to the farm. They tell you, well, you are old. You tend to do old people things. A lot of people still look at it as that. So if we can change the mindset of encouraging young people and saying, look, if you get into this field at a young age, your probabilities of making a profit, which might not be fast, but which is going to come eventually, is going to be huge. That'll get these young people very interested in it. Second, as I said, increasing the opportunities. If one cannot get accepted into UNAM, into the University of Namibia, into the Namibian University of Science and Technology, give them other opportunities. The vocational centers, I hope they will implement and say that they will offer agriculture as a field of study. Other institutions of higher learning should offer it as a field of study, so more people are given those opportunities and are not denied, where you don't really get denied that you have to go abroad, which might cost so much money for you to go abroad to go study a field like animal production or or animal sexual reproductions, things like those, rather than just being able to study it here at home. Um, the other thing one could say is that what our government could do to encourage people to study agriculture is give what the government did for the educational sector, where it said studying education, the government is going to pay for it, and it's going to be not per se free, but there's going to be more government support because they need more teachers. If the government of the day can say that, but not just say we're going to give you the support, but can say, look, we're going to give you the support from your studies till your end, and also from you obtaining a farm. That would be one advantage, to say that I studied this field. When I'm done here, when I apply for a resettlement farm, I am not guaranteed, but the chances of me getting a resettlement farm is there. Those are some of the things that can encourage some of these young people to get involved, and not just say we're going to support you to get a farm, but we also need to support you financially, because as I said, resources are a big thing in farming. If you do not have the financial resources, it's extremely very difficult to farm, because sorry, I'm saying because it's becoming rhetoric now, but you do need the money. Money is needed in farming for you to really plow into your farm. Whether you're going to plow your fields, or whether you're going to go into cattle production and you need to buy cattle feeds or buy the medication, you need that money. So that money needs to come through. And if the government of the day, through its Minister of Agriculture and its Minister of Trade and Industry, can say, okay, if you're going into the agricultural field, we are willing to support you in this way for you from your point of beginning to the point that you reach and actually become very productive and you're able to stand on your own. That would be another thing to encourage young people to get involved. Um, Lastly, we should, as I said, demystify farming. Try and make it more. Try and make people more interested in it. I know the media tries its hardest. The agricultural media tries its hardest by showing auctions of Bosmara, Brahman, Simbra bulls going for the Bosmara bull that went for $1 million. I know that's them trying to encourage more young people into the field, but uh, we adding to what I said about more opportunities to study this field, also look at introducing agriculture as a curriculum at school. Let's nurture the passion, the hunger, the interest for it at a young age. So these kids, by the time they are university or they are in high school, they continue studying it and they remain well versed. So those are some of the things that I pointed out, that how we can get young people involved in agriculture, because on the end of the day, any field that is unable to innovate is going to be a field that will die. It's going to be a field that will disappear, die, and disappear into extinction. You look at all the other fields that contribute to a country's GDP, they are all innovating. You look at even something as simple as guns, how technically guns are becoming nowadays. So that's the way agriculture needs to go. That's the future of agriculture that needs to happen here in Namibia. As I said, give the children, give the young people the opportunities, give them the opportunities to be able to buy farms, obtain resettlement farms, give them the opportunities to also be able to access loans from banks and agricultural banks. Give them those opportunities, and also give them work opportunities in the Ministry of Agriculture, or Ministry of Lands, or Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Lands. Give them that opportunity so they are involved and can contribute, rather than the field of agriculture having a large brain drain with a lot of young professional agriculturalists, experts in the fields who have obtained PhDs and masters, unable to get jobs. What do? Because they're unable to get a job, they just decide to get involved in something else that is totally unrelated to what they studied. So that's my 2 cents on that. Would love to hear from you guys. Comments, your comments in the. I'll be looking forward to read your comments on what I had to say and what you guys I might add to this, to see at what we can do to encourage more young people in this field of agriculture. That's all I have to say. Have yourself a good night. Have yourself a good night. Have yourself a blessed night. Goodbye.